Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Amanda Nichols, Communications Director here at Our Revolution, and I am so glad to welcome all of you to our live organizing call. We're kicking off the home stretch to Election Day, and to help us get things rolling, introduce yourself in the chat, tell us your name, where you're from, why you're tuning in tonight. And, we've got just 37 days to go until Election Day, November 5th. And we're digging into the state of the presidential race tonight with the nation's John Nichols and U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar. And we'll be revealing the results of our new swing state polling, so that's exciting. But our fight isn't just federal. Yeah, we got to go all out to beat Trump, but we also need to organize to win locally on the issues that matter most. So tonight, we're going to be highlighting some key down ballot fights to secure affordable housing, grow union power, defend our climate, and we'll be drilling down on the Yes on Prop 33 campaign for rent control in California with Michael Weinstein and the Stronger Denver campaign for union rights in Denver, Colorado with Katie Romich. President of the Chicago Teachers Union, Stacey Davis Gates, will be here to talk about the Our Schools campaign, and we'll hear from one of our top climate candidates, Dave Upthegrove, who won the primary by just 49 votes in the race for Washington State Public Lands Commissioner, and that could be huge for the mature forests out there in Washington. So if you're watching on social media, please like and share this. Let's get this live stream out to as many people as possible tonight. I see some folks are already tuning in on our Zoom chat. Let me read a few names and say our hellos. We've got David Legrand in Mokelumne Hill, California. He says, let's win. We concur. We've got Teresa, a retired music teacher in the Central Coast of California. We've got Rich A. in Bergen County, New Jersey, not too far from me right now. Patty from Denver, Colorado. Alex in Dubuque, Iowa. Ben from Kearney, Nebraska. He's in the 3rd district, he says. And we've got Cindy Cat from our Wisconsin Revolution. Welcome, Cindy. Everybody's saying hello to each other. A lot of camaraderie going on in the chat. Brian from Denver, also an Iowa native. Nick from Boston. We've got folks calling for a ceasefire. We've got Sue in Olympia, Washington. So great to see everybody tuning in tonight. And a big thank you to all of our grassroots supporters out there who make everything we do here possible. If you're not already a recurring monthly member of Our Revolution, I want to invite you to sign up for as little as $5, $10 a month. It all really helps, and we're dropping that link in the chat right now. Our organizers are on the ground in the swing states. They're seeing Trump's GOTV operations making some inroads into Democratic strongholds like Philadelphia in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania. So that's why we're expanding our phone bank operation so folks from anywhere in the country can make an impact into the 7 swing states that could decide the 2024 election. So we're going to drop the link in the chat for that right now. We'll be starting our dials on Wednesday into Pennsylvania and calling all 7 swing states. Once again, if you're just tuning in, my name's Amanda Nichols, and I'm the Communications Director here at Our Revolution, and we're just about to kick off our call. We're heading into the home stretch of the 2024 election, and tonight we're going to be talking with U.S. Rep. Ilhan Omar and author John Nichols on the stakes of the presidential race and, the outlook in the swing states. So we're also going to look at some of the exciting down ballot races and ballot measures that can directly impact crucial issues like housing, union rights, education, and climate. Michael Weinstein will be here from Prop 33 for rent control in California. Katie Romich will speak on the push for union rights in Denver. And Chicago's Teachers Union President, Stacey Davis Gates, will talk about the Our Schools campaign. And then Dave Upthegrove, a conservationist who could help save the last mature forests of Washington State if elected Public Lands Commissioner out there. Let me read a few more names from the chat before I hand things over. We're getting to our start time here. We've got Steve in Los Angeles. Someone says, hooray to all Bernie-crats. Rita Collins is here from DC. And Francis and Kat said, nice, rent control. Let's get excited about that. Let's vote yes on Prop 33 if you're in California. We got to take these corporate landlords to task. So hello to everybody in the chat. Keep boosting this everywhere you can on social media as well. Let's get the word out. And with that, let me hand it over to our host for the evening, Our Revolution's Executive Director, Joseph Gevarghese. Joseph, over to you.
Thank you, Amanda Nichols. Amanda is our communications director here at Our Revolution. I want to welcome everyone who is joining us in the Zoom room. I want to welcome everyone who is joining us via the dial-out. Brothers and sisters, my name is Joseph Gevarghese. I'm the executive director of Our Revolution. And again, welcome to each and every one of you as we start our live Organized to Win call. We are in the home stretch to the 2024 election, and tonight we've got an all-star lineup that's going to help us kick off our Get Out the Vote operation as early voting starts all across our nation. We're going to be joined by U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, and we've got John Nichols from the nation, who's going to talk to us about what we need to do to win in critical swing states and to win a Democratic trifecta in Washington, D.C. It is possible. It's possible to win, and it's possible to win big, brothers and sisters. But here's the thing. Here at Our Revolution, we're not just fighting federally. Yeah, we've got to go all out to beat Donald Trump, but we're also organizing locally to win on the issues that matter to our members. And that's why tonight we're going to be highlighting key down ballot fights to secure affordable housing, to create good union jobs, to promote good public schools, and to defend our common home, to fight for our environment. We're going to be hearing about the vote yes on Proposition 33, the campaign for rent control in California, with Michael Weinstein. We're also going to be hearing about the Stronger Denver ballot measure campaign for union rights from Katie Romich with the Communication Workers of America. We're going to learn about the Our Schools campaign to elect a progressive slate to the Chicago School Board. And we're going to be joined by Stacey Davis Gates, who's head of the Chicago Teachers Union, to tell us about that effort. And last but not least, we're going to be hearing from one of our top climate candidates, Dave Upthegrove, who won his primary for Washington State Public Lands Commissioner by just 51 votes out of nearly 2 million casts. When we organize, we win. We're going to drill down on that. But before I bring up all of our guests tonight, I want to talk just very briefly about the moment we're in. We all understand that our democracy is on the line. This election is ultimately going to determine whether our country moves towards authoritarian capitalist model like Russia or China, or if we remain free for economic and social progress, for an economic and social democracy. While we all know that Kamala Harris is no Bernie Sanders, we do understand that we need to beat Donald Trump and Trumpism if we're going to advance our progressive policy agenda. The polls are tight right now, razor thin. And we know that the Electoral College is rigged to favor Donald Trump. But our revolution can turn the tide. We can turn the tide if we turn out progressive voters in key battleground states. That's why right now we've got organizers on the ground who are knocking on doors. We've got folks who are making phone calls and sending texts to mobilize the base. That's right. We need to make sure that our progressive base turns out. Our strategy is to make over 5 million voter contacts in 7 key battleground states. That's Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Joe Biden narrowly won He narrowly beat Donald Trump in these states by less than 300,000 votes 4 years ago. 300,000 votes in 7 states. Our revolution has 1.2 million supporters in those states. These are Bernie Warren voters. And if we get them out to vote, our supporters could be the margin of victory in 2024. This election, at the end of the day, is going to be a turnout election. Whichever side runs the most effective voter turnout operation is going to prevail. And the truth is, we're seeing some troubling signs from the field. And we've got a new survey that I want to give you the results of. And it's a survey of our revolution supporters in swing states. Right now, 1 in 4 of our members in swing states say that they know other progressives. And remember, our revolution folks are activists. They're not just passive consumers of politics. They're engaged in the political process. And 1 in 4 of our activist base are saying that they know someone who's not going to vote, a progressive voter, or somebody who is going to vote third party. 1 in 4. 2 out of 3 of our activists have received outreach. 2 out of 3 of our activists has received outreach from the Trump campaign. That means they've had Trump canvassers knocking on the doors. They've gotten direct mail. And on top of that, they're being saturated bombed on the airwaves. And last but not least, 54% say that they're seeing more Trump signs than Harris signs in their own neighborhoods. Our members are saying, you know what, in order to win, we need more than just big name endorsements. 80% of our supporters say that the celebrity endorsements aren't going to be enough to sway their friends who are progressives. Our voters, 75%, say that they think Harris and Walz need to get more specific on their progressive policies. And they need to get out the word, do more interviews to clarify their positions to earn the votes and the trust of the progressive voters that they know. Now, as the campaign heads into the home stretch, they're gearing up and firing. That being said, we know and we can do our part to make sure that Donald Trump is defeated in just 36 days. The intel that we're getting, brothers and sisters, from the field is pretty clear, right? Our supporters, our organizers are sending us a wake-up call. We can't take any single vote for granted in this election. And that means we've got to run a robust get out the vote operation. So I want to encourage everyone here, sign up to contact other progressives in key swing states. Over the next 7 days, we're going to be making calls into the 7 top swing states, and we're going to call 1.2 million progressives. These are Bernie Warren voters, and we're going to make sure that we get them to turn out to vote. That link is going to be dropped in the chat. Sign up, spend a little bit of time to help fight to save our democracy and clear a path for progress. That being said, if you can't volunteer, if you can't squeeze out a few hours to phone bank, I want to ask you to consider donating to our swing state fund. We've got organizers in the field. We're sending texts. We're knocking on doors, and your financial support can help underwrite our campaign and help us reach every single progressive voter and make sure they get out to vote. The link is in the chat. Again, donate your time, donate your treasure. We're down to the line. Election day is 36 days away. And with that being said, I want to welcome one of our strongest allies, United States Representative Ilhan Omar. She is the deputy chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Representative Omar, welcome to our call. Sorry, Ilhan, are you on? Well, actually, so let me flip that then to John. John, are you ready to come up?
I am. I'm glad to be
Awesome.
with you, Joe.
John Nichols. So, John is an old friend, a comrade in arms, and we're going to talk a little bit about the state of race with John. John is a longtime political reporter with The Nation. If you don't subscribe to The Nation, you should. And you should follow John on social media. We're glad John's here tonight to help share his insights about the election. John, you recently, this has been a wild ride, and
Yes.
you just wrote a really amazing piece in the latest edition of The Nation, and you actually dare us to think big, and you asked the question, can Kamala Harris win big? And winning big means not just winning in these swing states, but actually getting a governing majority by getting enough votes in the House, getting enough votes in the Senate, and being able to clear space so that we can drive a progressive agenda. Tell us a little bit about the reporting that you did and the conclusions that you reached, brother.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's always an honor to be on with Our Revolution. This is a group that has a clear vision of where our politics ought to be in economic and social and racial justice, save the planet, and stop the wars vision. And so it's good to be with you. And I do want to remind folks that Amanda Nichols is brilliant, but not related to me. And although I certainly wouldn't mind, because the work she's doing is so important. Joe, the work you're doing is so important. And as regards to the piece that I wrote, I decided after the switch was made from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris that there was a clear inner energy boost within the Democratic Party and frankly, beyond its boundaries. People were excited by the fact that someone who was the daughter of immigrants from India and Jamaica, who would be the first Black woman to be president of the United States, the first woman to be president of the United States, only the second Black person in the history of the country to serve in that office. You could tell, you could feel something going on. So I decided to get in my car and travel across a lot of the country, especially in the upper Midwest and into the interior West, and meet with folks who were on the ground and ask them, what they needed, frankly, to win, right? Knowing now that the dynamic had shifted, what did they need? And look, what I heard was stuff that relates to a lot of what your polling suggests, and frankly relates to a lot of the work you're doing. People said they needed a clear, progressive message: economic and social and racial justice, save the planet, stop the wars. I have to be honest with you. I heard a lot of folks who wanted a much clearer stance in opposition to the Israeli assault on Gaza. I heard folks who said they wanted a much clearer position on addressing the crisis with climate change and also, frankly, fossil fuels. So there were people who wanted more. There's no question on issues, but there were also people who wanted more on location, right? They were saying, look, it's great to fight in the battleground states, right? Those have to be won. That's how you get the White House. But that also there needs to be a broader vision to go into states that are sometimes written off and recognize that in those states, you may or may not win the presidential race, but you can make it a lot closer. And in doing so, you may win a couple congressional seats. You may win a Senate seat. And this is what I heard a lot in places like Eastern Nebraska, where they hope to pick up a congressional seat. They could give Kamala Harris an electoral vote. And there's an outside chance that an independent labor leader running for the U.S. Senate could win that seat. I heard from people in Eastern Iowa saying, look, with a little more energy here in Iowa, we can pick up 2 U.S. House seats. I heard from people in Western Wisconsin saying, don't forget to come to this part of the state because we can pick up a House seat here. And I guess what that brings me to, Joe, is this core concept. And that is that winning has to be with a go big vision. It can't just be to narrowly preserve the Democratic hold on the Oval Office. You've got to be looking at how you win big enough so that even Donald Trump might accept the result. And I know that's got to be a big, big win, but also that you hold the Senate, win the House back. And so Kamala Harris doesn't just come to the presidency with a narrow advantage, but she comes with a trifecta victory: White House, House, and Senate. And from that, an ability to govern. Because for progressives, you don't just want to win an election or hold an office. That's important, and that counts for something. But you want to govern, and you want to govern toward a New Deal, great society vision, something that is much bigger and much bolder than, frankly, even Joe Biden, who did a lot, but frankly, even bigger and bolder than Joe Biden imagined.
And John, tell me a little bit about, let's go back to the swing states itself. Donald Trump won in 2016 by flipping pivot counties, right? These are places that voted for Barack Obama twice, but then flipped, right? A lot of those were blue wall, part of the Great Blue Wall. There were strong unions, tons of manufacturing jobs, and those factories slipped away. I think about GM Lordstown in Ohio, in the Mahoning Valley. I think about Siemens in eastern Iowa. There's a lot of places that were bombed out.
Janesville and Kenosha in my own state of Wisconsin.
Backyard. Yeah.
Two of our major auto plants lost, over, within the last 15 years, basically.
And so, Trump made a clear economic appeal to these voters who used to be Democrats, union members, right? I'm going to bring back jobs. I'm going to bring back your factories. Do not sell your homes. He gave a vision of economic hope. Do you feel like the Harris-Walz campaign is able to communicate with these working class voters in the swing states? Are they able to talk about an economic vision building off of, the IRA, building off the work that Joe Biden has done?
Yeah, they can talk to him, but they need to talk a little more loudly. Look, it is not hard for the Harris-Walz ticket and their union allies to point out that Donald Trump let down working class Americans. He promised a lot and didn't deliver. That's something that Sean Fain of the UAW points out very, very clearly. And that critique is important. That's why you see the Trump is a scab t-shirts and all those messages about what a failed presidency Donald Trump's was for working class Americans. But there's a second part of your question, Joe, which I think is really, really important, and the one that we need to focus in on. And that is that it isn't just to say Trump is a bad player. You need to have a big, bold vision for economic renewal in America. Now, Harris spelled out a little of that in her Pittsburgh speech, especially at the close of that speech. She talked about renewing the manufacturing sector. That message, though, has got to become much more central to what she's talking about. She should be talking in every speech about renewing the manufacturing economy, and frankly, what the Biden administration has done in that regard. There's some bragging rights there, but also about renewing the farm economy, because this Democratic ticket needs to do a lot better in rural areas than Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden did. And so you need this bigger, bolder message. And that message has to be to a multiracial, multi-ethnic constituency, right? It's don't just think of working class in narrow ways. Understand that the working class is every race, every ethnicity, every background, and that what they want is a very, very clear shift. You need to incredibly increase the minimum wage, right? $15 sounds good, but even that's not enough anymore. You've got to be talking about $17, $18, $19, $20 an hour minimum wage. You need to be talking about a massive extension of union rights in this country, passing the PRO Act, doing other things that make it possible for people to organize. Polling shows that's one of the best ways to reach out to young workers and to young voters who may be a little bit disenchanted, may not be as engaged as you want. giving them the access to unions with a change in laws and a real kind of change in frame, that's a big deal. The final element that I would suggest is that, especially for those young voters, and I think for a lot of older voters, there's a place of intersection with increasing wages, increasing manufacturing, but also saving the planet. Donald Trump is never going to talk about that, but that 21st century vision of how we have a Green New Deal and also how we have a way of responding to the AI revolution that's taking place. If the Harris-Walz ticket is talking about that in big, bold ways, there are going to be a lot of breakthroughs politically. And believe me, one thing I'll tell you is everybody says there's only a month or so roughly to go before the election. A month is a lifetime in politics. There is a tremendous amount of time to expand the progressive message, to build out on the organizing, and to burrow into those rural counties, those urban counties, those places where there are a lot of voters who can and should be organized for a progressive vision of winning not just the White House, but winning the Senate, winning the House of Representatives, winning state legislative seats, winning for environmentalists, running for key offices around the country, as you'll be hearing about later on, winning those referendums. A month is a long time. It ought to be seized with an energy. And I think people on this call recognize that. I hope that they will pour energies into making sure that their vision is one that is heard by people in positions of power.
So John Nichols, thank you so much, brother, for joining our call. Again, John Nichols is a longtime friend of our revolution, a longtime friend of the American labor movement, which is where I first encountered John. And I encourage, again, everyone, subscribe to The Nation. John Nichols is must-read political education for progressives, and he's bringing an important message that we need to get the word out to folks. So, John, you're getting a lot of applause and a lot of hearts, brother.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. There's a lot more we could talk about at other times, but you got other great guests, and I just want to say to folks, this man who is managing this call, I have seen him on the front lines in every fight for economic and social and racial justice for the planet and for peace that's gone on for decades. And he will never accept the compliments as well as he should. But I'm very honored to be on this call with him and with all of you.
John Nichols, again, The Nation. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
And let me check really quick. Is Representative Omar on? I see that her staff is on the line. Ilhan, are you able to join? If not, I want to pivot to Dave Updegrove. I told you guys about razor-thin race that our revolution members in Washington State helped win. And when I say razor-thin, we're talking about winning by like 50 votes out of almost 2 million cast. That's razor-thin. Our members in Washington State, and I just want to emphasize getting out the vote and why it's important, not just in Washington State, but in critical pivot counties, in critical swing states. Our members helped cure ballots. We helped cure 57 ballots. And I want to say those are probably some of the ones that contributed to Dave's victory. And we made even a bigger splash. We made over 300,000 voter contacts going into the election and helped Dave get into the top two for the primary. He's now facing off against a Republican, a former congresswoman, who is the favorite of big timber. They want to chop down our trees and destroy our planet. So with that, Dave, welcome to our Organized to Win call. Tell us a little bit about the state of the race. You eked it out. What's your plan to win?
Thank you. I'm excited to be included tonight. Washington State is unique in that we elect the director of our Department of Natural Resources, which is a tremendous responsibility managing millions of acres of timberlands here in the Pacific Northwest, our aquatic lands, agricultural lands. And I ran for this office in a crowded field. There were 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And I made the decision, I believe I was the only Democrat that made the decision not to accept campaign contributions from the timber industry, their corporate executives, and lobbyists. And I also ran on a outspoken platform of protecting our mature legacy forests, a platform that Our Revolution is working on at the national level as well. They store the most carbon, they have the most biodiversity. And after a hard-fought campaign on election night, I should back up. In Washington state, the top two vote getters advanced to the general election regardless of party. I mentioned 5 Democrats, 2 Republicans. We split the vote. And on election night, it was too close to call. It appeared 2 Republicans were going to advance to the general election. And we watched the votes come in, and you do the thing with the spreadsheet and how many are in each county. And it was clear doing our math, we were going to fall behind by about 200 votes. We were going to lose, and 2 Republicans would advance. So we got the list of all the people who forgot to sign their ballots or whose signatures didn't match. And we worked with the Democratic Party and matched it up with Democratic records. And we mobilized, we looked back, we had 355 volunteers making phone calls and knocking on doors. And anyone whose ballot wasn't fixed got at least 3 phone calls from a trained volunteer, 2 text messages, and then everyone we couldn't reach, we went to their doors. We got 97%. And we ended up, after a hand recount statewide and 2.5 million people voting, we won by 49 votes and secured a spot general election. The takeaway is simple. Every vote matters. Your work helped in them can win. The timber industry put $1.2 million behind another conservative timber industry Democrat, and we won by talking to voters and by running a grassroots campaign. So I'm here to tell you your work matters, your vote matters, and to keep it up.
Dave, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule again. Dave is going to be the next Commissioner of Public Lands in Washington State. We need to defend our forests from the timber industry. They want to cut down our forests and destroy our environment. And it's up to us to make sure that we elect champions like Dave Updegrove. And like Dave said, he said 49, it was even tighter than I remember, 49 votes out of over 2 million cast. That is the power of turning out the vote.
Yep.
And with that, I want to bring up our next guest, United States Representative Ilhan Omar. Ilhan, thank you so much for joining us. Representative Omar is the deputy chair of the Congressional Progressive Congress. She's been a longtime ally in many of the fights that we've been through as a community. Representative, thank you. This is our GOTV kickoff call. We are recruiting our activist base to get involved and to turn out the vote all around the country, and especially in 7 swing states.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joseph, and thank you to Our Revolution for putting this virtual gathering together. Dave is right. I think it matters when everybody is involved and is inviting our neighbors to participate in our democracy and laying out what is at stake in every single position that is up for election. Ballots are not just about the top of the ticket, right? It is not just about who's running for president, who's running for vice president, or who's running for governor. It matters who represents you in Congress. It matters who represents you in state houses. It matters who your commissioners are, whether they're county commissioners or water commissioners. It matters who's on your school board. It matters who your city council members are. And most of us who have mostly organized around local politics understand that there is an actual impact in your day-to-day life day-to-day lives, about the kind of changes that are taking place. And oftentimes, many of the pieces of legislation that I champion in Congress are things that I worked on as a senior policy aide at City Hall in Minneapolis. Things like passing the zero waste ordinance. That's now legislation that I carry federally to try to make sure people are able to implement their zero waste programs. We talk about policies that progressives care about, like paid sick and family time. We know that those are policies that oftentimes get generated on a municipal level, just like we did in Minneapolis about a decade ago. And now last year, we were able to get it done on a state level. And I know that if Rosa DeLaura has anything to say about it, that we are going to get it done on a federal level. And so everything is connected. And the more you are able to make sure that you are translating the policies that you're advocating for, the candidates that you care about when you're at the doors, with the actual challenges that are within your community, it makes a huge, huge, huge difference. I think that we talk a lot, people who have voter empathy, but we forget that there are so many people across the country that are eager and understand what their voice means in electoral politics, but they oftentimes do not know how to access. There might be barriers for them. My grandfather, as a new immigrant, didn't speak the language and he didn't drive. And so oftentimes when we made a plan, we had to also create a plan for him. So there are folks like that are eager to vote, but are not going out to vote because there are those barriers. And lastly, I will just say, Minnesota is an incredible state. There is a possibility that our governor might become the next vice president. And we are obviously really excited because he's been someone who has been a really incredible partner in governing for progressive values. Our trifecta, with just one seat majority in the Senate, produced the most transformative pieces of legislation. For 10 years, we made promises as we knocked doors and said, if you elect us Democrats into the majority, we're going to do A, B, and C. And my former colleagues in the Minnesota House and Senate did that with partnership with our Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and our Governor Tim Walz. And so I know that is possible for us in the Progressive Caucus to have that level of co-governance with him when he does become the vice president of this country. But I will go back to this part about Minnesota. Turnout is everything. And years back, when my predecessor, our Attorney General Keith Ellison, first ran for Congress, this was 2006, the 5th congressional district, which he represented and I now represent, had one of the lowest voter turnouts in the country. And now it has one of the top voter turnouts in the country. I sometimes am shocked when my colleagues are winning their primaries with 40,000 votes casted, with 80,000 votes casted, when here in my district, there's sometimes over 200,000 votes that are casted in a primary election. And people still talk about it as a low turnout primary election. And that's because we are jazzed up in the 5th. We are jazzed up in Minnesota. We understand that the energy here in the 5th is what keeps our state blue. And so we stay organized and are constantly activating not just our base and likely voters, but people who we know would love to have a vote in the system, but just are not getting somebody at their door. They are just not getting that invitation to come participate. They're not being given a reason on why they should come out. And so to every single person who's an organizer who's on this call, I thank you for participating in that work. And I know that together we are going to continue to win. And this movement will continue to grow, and we will continue to have a thriving democracy that continues to create a more perfect union because you decided to be part of this organizing effort to make our country the wonderful country we know it could be.
Representative Omar, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to speak to our activists and leaders around the country tonight. We are focused on turning out the vote in 7 swing states. We've got 1.2 million Bernie Warren voters in those 7 states. And as you said, turnout's going to matter. If we turn out the progressive base, we can elect your governor into the vice presidency and engage in co-governance. Tim Walz, you heard it from Representative Omar, is a progressive partner that our movement can engage with once we're empowered, in addition to the Congressional Progressive Caucus that Representative Omar is helping to lead. So again, Representative Omar, thank you. I look forward to seeing you on the other side of victory.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Let's go fight and win.
Go fight, win. Next up, so we have talked a little bit about our work to win in swing states, win the presidency and the vice presidency. We've talked about our work to elect down ballot candidates like Dave Updegrove, who are going to be important for issues that we care about, like climate. Now I want to talk about creating good union jobs. One of our priorities is to make sure that we create and empower a powerful labor movement in the United States. Republicans understand that their job when elected is to make the labor movement smaller. Our goal is to make sure that politicians, when they're elected, make the labor movement bigger and more powerful. And one of the key campaigns that our revolution has worked on is the ballot measure around to make Denver stronger. And the goal there is to make sure that we extend collective bargaining rights to every single public sector worker in the city of Denver. Denver's one of the few Democratic cities that hasn't extended collective bargaining rights to all workers. And right now I want to bring up the campaign director, Katie Rumich. Katie is with the Communication Workers of America and has been at the forefront of the fight in Denver. Katie, tell us a little bit about the fight to win collective bargaining rights.
Thank you so much, Joseph. It's such an honor to be included in your GOTV action call. We in CWA and at the Stronger Denver campaign for Denver City Collective Bargaining, we are so grateful to all of the good people at our revolution, including your board chair and my union's former president, Larry Cohen. I also bring you greetings on behalf of my union's president, Claude Cummings, who thanks you for all the great work you're doing, especially in his home state of Texas. So good tidings from the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado, where a group of unions, political and community organizations, including our revolution, is urging Denver voters to vote yes on question 2U, which will give collective bargaining rights to 10,000 workers who don't have it. And it's really the whole campaign and effort is the classic lesson that I know is a rallying cry at our revolution, which is when we organize, we win. By organizing a base of workers who are committed to building real power, we are poised now to win workers' rights at the ballot box. And our revolution has been a supporter since day one. Our revolution, you all were one of the first organizations to step up. You mobilized your very significant Denver membership, tens of thousands of our revolution members in the Denver area, with hundreds of phone calls and a sign-on letter to our mayor to support union rights. And with your help, we got our mayor and all of our city council on board with unanimous support to bring this to the voters. We've had a lot of people respond with shock along the way. Voters like, don't city workers already have these rights? And although collective bargaining is considered a human right across the globe, our rights to collective bargaining in this country are very weak and in some places non-existent. So that's how it can be that in 2024 in Denver, Colorado, a deeply blue city that voted 80% for Joe Biden in 2020, library workers, sanitation workers, social workers are still excluded from these basic human rights of being able to negotiate a union contract. And we have to face these painful facts in our country. It's a painful fact that the deck in this country is stacked against working people, and that fact has opened the door for Donald Trump. It's the shoddy patchwork of collective bargaining coverage in the United States, both in the public sector and the private sector. It has to be seen as a major factor, not an excuse for working class support for Donald Trump, but it's a major factor. And we have to fight Trump. He's a scab. I've got my sign right here. But we also have to fight to expand collective bargaining rights so that working class people can have a real voice on the job and a real voice in our broader democracy. It's not all bad news. In my role here as organizing director at CWA in District 7, it has been incredibly animating to be part of this movement of local public workers who are organizing despite not having collective bargaining rights. So hundreds of workers 4 years ago formed CWA Local 7799. They have built collective power. They have 1,700 dues-paying members, 1,700 people paying dues every month to their local without collective bargaining rights. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, this form of unionization is called pre-majority union or direct join union. And it's an option for those people that don't have access to collective bargaining. So this organizing over the last 4 years has created a base of workers in Denver with the political power to push for municipal collective bargaining at the ballot box. So this is a when we organize, we win story. And we worked in 2023, a lot of unions, not just CWA, but SEIU, a lot of other unions worked really hard, as well as with community organizations, our Revolution, housing and racial justice organizations, to elect more progressives to our Denver City Council, just like Representative Omar said. And we elected Chantel Lewis, we elected Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez, we elected our CWA member Sarah Parody. And we knew these people. We didn't think they would fight for workers. We knew they would fight for workers' rights, and they would lead the fight for workers' rights. And that's what we've done. Alongside of them, we've built a movement with amazing partners like Our Revolution and Teamsters Local 455 and Teamsters Local 17 and too many other organizations to list. And we are now bringing this issue directly to voters. So voters, Denver voters are going to decide if any of y'all are living in Denver. We all in Colorado, we mostly vote by mail. Our ballots will start around mid-October. And voters are going to have the opportunity to fix our broken collective bargaining system and our broken laws in Denver. So if people want to learn more, you can go to our website, which is strongerdenver.org. Thank you again so much, Joseph, and all the good people at Our Revolution for being so supportive from the beginning, and for the invitation to talk tonight. It's been an honor.
Katie Romich with CWA, thank you so much, sister. It is core to our movement. It's core to our revolution to grow a more powerful labor movement in our country. I think the situation that we're in, the fact Donald Trump is where he's at, is because Democrats have let labor unions die. And it's up to us and our movement to rebuild it. So thank you for doing what you do. Our allies across the country are with you, and we're going to help make sure we get this over the finish line.
Thanks, Joseph.
All right. So next up, we're not just not only are we fighting to protect our common home by electing climate champions like Dave Updegrove, not only are we working to create more good union jobs like we are in Denver, not only are we working to make sure we get Harris Walz elected by focusing on swing states, but we're also working to expand affordable housing. We all know that the rent is too damn high. And if you live in California, you feel it. We've been calling and texting with our members in California, and people have told us horror stories. They have to live by couch surfing because they can't afford the rent. They have to live on a boat. They can't live on land because they can't afford to buy or rent and keep shelter over their heads. And so that's why our revolution is proud to be partnering with Justice for Renters to vote yes on Proposition 33. We're going up against the corporate landlord lobby to make sure that local communities have an ability to impose controls on rents so that price gouging predatory landlords can't rip off renters. And right now I want to bring up Michael Weinstein. He's with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, one of the key movers behind this proposition. Michael, welcome to our Organize to Win call. Tell us a little bit about the state of play.
Sure. Thank you very much, Joseph, and thank you to our revolution for hosting this and inviting me. Certainly, you captured the theme of our campaign. The rent is too damn high. 50% of California renters are rent burdened. And as wealthy as California is, we are the poorest state by virtue of standard of living. A starting teacher in our big cities here will pay 50% of their income in rent. That is unsustainable. We have 180,000 people living on the streets. Housing is not a commodity. It's a necessity. Okay? While we know that solving the housing affordability crisis requires a variety of different approaches, it starts with the rent. We have to keep people in their homes by controlling rent. I personally grew up in a rent-controlled apartment in New York City. That allowed my lower middle-class family to have a decent life. If you work at a minimum wage job in Los Angeles, your full-time pay is equal to the average cost of an apartment. That is not sustainable. The billionaire corporate landlords are sucking this country dry. They are a cartel. And that's been represented recently by the RealPage scandal, where they're actually using algorithms to squeeze the last bit of money out of tenants. The California Apartment Association is such a cartel controlled by billionaires, and they'll go to any length to stop rent control from happening. That includes putting Prop 34 on the ballot. And the sole purpose of Prop 34 is to stop AIDS Healthcare Foundation from supporting rent control initiatives here and across the country. And we have to go to the ballot because we cannot depend on Sacramento. They are bought and paid for by big real estate, up to and including our governor. When we presented 732,000 letters to the governor asking him to support our initiative, he sent us, his office sent us to their spokesperson, Nathan Click, who's also the representative of the California Apartment Association. So he's actually outsourced his communication to them. The No on 33 campaign has already raised $107 million against us. The only way we can bridge that gap in funding is through the grassroots effort. So what we've done so far is we have done 50 million texts, and we have to do them one click at a time under California law. We've done hundreds of thousands of phone calls, millions of online impressions, and much, much more. So we appeal to everyone who's on this call. Our revolution is doing a great job, but we need you to spread the word. We are so thrilled to have the support of American progressive royalty, from Bernie and Jane Sanders to Dolores Huerta to Ro Khanna to Maxine Waters, the DSA, California Nurses, Unite Here, Los Angeles and San Francisco counties, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, more than 70 grassroots organizations, and every major tenants organization, and many, many more. Housing is the number one issue in California, and this is the year to make it happen. It's a presidential year where there's bigger turnout. We need everybody who's listening to help us spread the message. The California dream is dying. More than 1 million people have already left, but we can save it. And the last thing I want to say is that for the last 6 years, I've been appealing to the progressive movement to put housing at the top of the agenda. We're strong supporters of Medicare for all. We understand the importance of the Green New Deal and many other issues. But the issue of most immediate concern to many people, particularly younger voters, is how they're going to pay their rent and how they can live. And so I'm happy to say that I think that we're accomplishing that, bringing it to the top of the progressive agenda. There are 34 states in the U.S. that have these laws banning local control over rents. They were put through, unfortunately, with the cooperation of a lot of corporate Democrats in the 90s. If we can overturn this in California, we will open the door to turning it over all across this country. And that can be the beginning of a movement that can fundamentally change the economics of this country.
Michael, thank you for joining our GOTV call. We have a lot of folks from California who are in the Zoom room, and we have a lot of, several thousand folks who are on the phone lines. I want to encourage people to click on the link on the chat. If you are in California, sign up to support the Yes on 33 campaign. We need to make sure that as affordable housing becomes a more pressing issue on the national stage, we need to make sure that we win on this in November so that we send a ripple effect across the country. So I want you to, if you're in California, click on the link in the chat, vote yes on 33. And for the activists on this call, we will circle back and get you on phone banks, get you on text, and get you part of the campaign. We've got to win this fight on affordable housing. We need to create good jobs. We need to fight to save the planet, but we got to make sure that we all have a roof over our heads from the get-go. So, Michael, thank you very much for the work that you're doing, and we'll see you on the other side of victory.
Thank you so much for hosting me.
So, brothers and sisters, again, thank you all for joining us. Stacey Davis Gates, unfortunately, was not able to make it. She is the head of the.
I'm here.
Oh, you are here! Awesome!
Yes.
Woo!
You see me?
No, I don't believe we can, but we can hear you.
Well, that'll be good enough. It's already late enough. Hey,
Great. And it looks like that you're on Representative Omar's phone line.
Well, not really, but if that's the phone line, I'll take it. She's an amazing leader. I would never not want to be someone as wonderful as Representative Omar. So just quickly, because I know people are, getting a little tired. My name is Stacey Davis Gates. I am the president of the Chicago Teachers Union. Really want to thank our revolution for being 10 toes down in Chicago. The renaissance that we are experiencing in this moment, you all have to take credit for it. It does not happen without a dimensional movement that is local, that is state, that is national, that is international. So I do want to appreciate and say thank you for everything. And I want to say that because it is important for our revolution members to know that this is not just about the person we are voting for, the contrary, right? This is about how we knock doors to create the type of spaces where we get the candidates that we want to vote for, that represent our values, that speak to our truths, our pains, our aspirations, and our hopes. So in Chicago, we have a mayor who is a middle school teacher who is fighting to govern. We were fighting to keep our schools open. We were fighting to get affordable housing. We have been fighting for our lives in this city. And finally, we have someone who is fighting to govern after decades of austerity, decades of segregation, decades of our schools being underfunded, under-resourced, and forgotten about, especially in places in the city where melanated people, working people send their children. And so we have this opportunity in Chicago where for the first time ever in the history of our city, we will be electing, listen to this word, electing a school board. Why is this significant? Because while other cities, states, while our nation is struggling with this effort to ban books, with this effort to retell African-American history and therefore American history, with this effort to marginalize our voices, we have expanded democracy in the city of Chicago. That is an amazing feat. And that feat only happens because we organized for it, not because we just voted. We organized and we voted. We organized and we went on strike. We organized and. And so we have to remember that word "and" when we're doing this work, because that "and" is how we create a new ecosystem that sees us, that values us. That being said, we're going to need your help, our revolution, in getting these amazing candidates that represent our city in every dimension possible over the finish line. We are up against very powerful billionaire, millionaire interests who are from out of state. The Netflix CEO has dropped a lot of money to people who have harmed our schools, privatized our schools, fired Black, female, experienced teachers. These are the people who are contesting for seats on our elected school board. These are also the same ilk of people who are 10 toes down for Project 20 in the world, right? A world in which they ameliorate the voice of labor, a world in which they destroy public education. So this is consequential down ballot race, but I also want to be very clear. Our down ballot race will only be made possible if we get the top of the ticket as well. It is a both and. We can participate in the world we're building while trying to change it at the same time. And I think what we have to do, especially our revolutionaries, is that we have to hold our ability to organize, to challenge, and to change at the same time that we have to tell Donald Trump to go take a hike. At the same time where Project 2025 has to be destroyed. These are things that I am confident that we can do because we have an elected school board in the city of Chicago, the first time in the history of our school system that we get this. So I want to be encouraged by what this call is giving. I heard affordable housing. I hear our values being expressed all across this country. There's nothing we can't do when we listen to the rank and file worker, when we knock on doors and talk to our neighbors. That's our power. And what I want to ask you to do is help us exercise that power in the city of Chicago. Help us get school board candidates that are going to represent our values, that are going to continue to organize so we can fight to govern in a space where we tax the rich. Fight to govern in a space in which we listen to the mothers and the fathers of the children who send their children to the public school system, where we prioritize the expertise of the educators who make it go around, the paraprofessionals, the clinicians, and the teachers. So I want to appreciate this opportunity to stump for our school board members. We have 10 districts here in Chicago where we are pushing them out. And these 10 districts have absolutely great people who are running on them, who are going to help us transform our public schools. And very quickly, I would like to say we had Jenny Custer in the 1st district. We have Ebony DeBerry in the 2nd district. We have Jason Dones in the 3rd district. We have Karen Zakor, a CTU retired member, a retired teacher who helped to build a school. We have her running in District 4. And we have national leader, renowned organizer, diet hunger striker, G2 Brown running in District 5. We have Anusha Thadakora running in District 6. We have Yesenia Lopez running in District 7. We have Felix Ponce running in District 8. And we have mother and military veteran Lynetta Thomas running in District 9. And we have our own Reverend Robert Jones running in District 10. If you're in Chicago, go to ourschools.org, ourschools.org, or just come over to the Chicago Teachers Union, local1.org, and get the full list, and make sure when you vote early that you take this list with you. These are the people who have been vetted, not because someone chose them, but because they knocked on a door, but because they made a phone call, but because they're already organized. So Our Revolution, thank you for helping us build this Chicago that we are existing in. We're going to need all of your help to keep this consistency and to keep fighting to govern, fighting to see people who have been pushed to the margins. So thank you, Our Revolution. Senator Bernie Sanders, who has never missed a beat with this space here. We appreciate you.
Stacey Davis Gates, thank you for joining us. She is the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, which is a kick-ass union that has taken over political power in the city of Chicago, and they're fighting the good fight. And then not only have they helped elect a mayor and a progressive council, right, they are helping to elect a progressive, the first ever progressive school board in Chicago, 10 candidates running around a common platform. Check it out, Our Schools. And Stacey, we're going to be helping get out the vote. Looking forward to seeing you on the other side of victory. And with that, we're going to wrap up our call. But I want to remind everyone, right? Again, sign up to make calls into our swing states. We need to make sure that we defeat Trump once and for all. Sign up, 7 days, 7 states. We're going to reach 1.2 million progressives and make sure they get out to vote. And that being said, also want to encourage all of you to get involved in the campaigns that we outline. We're fighting for union rights. We're fighting for our climate. We're fighting for good schools. We're fighting for affordable housing. These are priority fights. It's not all about the White House. There's important down ballot fights. I want to encourage you to get involved. Let us know if you want to volunteer. And not only that, if you can't volunteer, if you can't make phone calls, I want to encourage you to contribute, become a sustaining donor of Our Revolution. What you heard on this call tonight is an example of the work that we do every day. It is a labor of love. We're fighting to create the world that we want to live in and that we want to raise our children in. We believe that every human being deserves dignity, and that is reflected in our public work. So again, if you can't volunteer, donate. And if you can volunteer and donate, that's awesome. And with that being said, let's end. I want you to unmute your phones if you're with your family, if you're here in the Zoom room, and say it with me. When we organize, we win.
We win.
Say it with me. When we organize,
We win.
We
when we organize,
We win.
We win.
We win.
thank you, everyone.